G'day! We're back for part 2 of my mini golf C++ adventure. If you haven't already seen the first video, I highly recommend you check it out to get up to speed on the chaos so far. Today we're looking at making some new obstacles, a cheeky art upgrade, and designing some more levels. Let's dive right into it. So last we left off, I had these 2 levels for testing, made up of grass and walls. And while they were good for helping me get the basics up, I can't make a game with only walls. So I decided I wanted to add some obstacles to challenge the player. First up is the sand pit. Like in real golf, when the ball is in sand, it will drastically slow down the speed of the ball and typically bring it to a stop. Currently, whenever the golf ball is moving, it loses speed at a set rate that I've called friction, and sand will have a different friction rate which will help slow down the ball even faster. So, instead of friction being a constant value, I'll switch it to dynamic to allow us to change it at will. That actually didn't take as long as I thought it would. The most fiddly part was actually adjusting the friction value so it felt right. I wanted it to be noticeable enough that the ball had slowed down, but not so much that it was impossible to get out of. Next up is water. If a ball touches water, the ball will reset to the last position it was before the shot was taken. I thought about it only resetting the ball if it ends in water to allow some risk-reward trick shots, but I think this is probably the safer bet for now. All we have to do is store the ball's position, and if it collides with water, we reset it. That was easy to change, but if we have a close look here, it doesn't quite feel right. So I need to update my favorite part of the game, collision. If you remember the fiasco from last time, I settled on AABB collision, which detects when 2 squares overlap each other. But this won't really work here because if even the smallest fraction of the ball overlaps the water, you're forced to try again, which is really weird. So I'm making a new and thankfully simpler collision method called point in a box, which checks if a point is in a box. I know, mind blowing. Now the ball only resets when the center of the ball is in the water, which feels better and still allows for some close calls. One thing that's bothered me this entire time are the walls. With anything grid-based, if you give your tiles a consistent border, the insides of the tiles always look thicker than the outside because it doubles up on the thickness of the border. I get away with it on the grass because it alternates colors every tile, so I tried it with the walls, but I didn't like it enough. So instead, I decided to remove the inner border from the tiles. It's a simple change, but I think it's going to make it look a lot better. First, I need to make some tile variations. Now, I've given all the tile variations specific names which correspond to what they represent. For example, tile UNNN has walls on the right, down, and left sides, and no wall on the up side. This works for all the different tiles that I've made. That was the easy part, now for the hard part. I need a way to check the adjacent tiles of a wall. So what I'll do is, whenever I make a tile, regardless of what it is, I'll add it to a new vector of tiles. From a wall's position in the list, I can determine its coordinates and the tile above, below, and to the left and right of it. Based on the adjacent tiles, I'll add a specific letter to a key which will determine the spawn texture. So if there's a wall above the tile, I'll add U, and if there isn't, I'll add N. And I'll repeat this for the other 3 sides using R, D, and L respectively. Then I'll pass in the final result, and it should give me the correct texture. Yes! Oh, So after some investigating, it turns out that the issue is I was trying to compare a string to an enum which it doesn't seem to like. So my way around this is to have a giant switch statement which spits out the correct enum. And voila! It works. A little dodgy, but it works. Although I'm noticing a slight issue with it. If you look real closely at some of the corners and joints, there seems to be chunks missing, which greatly aggravates me. And that's when I realized my mistake, that my current list is missing some tiles. For example, this corner piece has 2 walls, but depending on the adjacent tiles, there are actually 2 possibilities. One with a corner, and one without. And this applies to majority of the tiles. So now I have to account for 4 walls and 4 corners. This means that I need to split my 4-letter key into 8, so every original letter is now followed by a Y or an N. Y means leave it empty, and N means put a corner in. So with 8 letters and 2 options per spot, that means there's 256 combinations. Thankfully, I can get rid of a lot of these since I'm never going to have just a corner exposed or have a corner missing between 2 walls. This means, if I did my math right, there should be 47 total tiles. Back to Photoshop. Okay, I've got all the tiles now, and if I missed any, I also made a quick default texture which will show that I'm missing something, but hopefully I never see this again. All I need to do now is update all the enums and textures and do some praying. But I don't feel like doing this 47 times, so I'm gonna get my pal to do it for me. Add a few more conditions for the corners here, and fingers crossed. Oh sh**, it actually worked first time. Yeah, totally worth it. As for levels, I wanted to add proper level loading in this devlog, but unfortunately I didn't have time for that. However, I've planned out a bunch of levels in Photoshop, so all I've got to do is convert them into map files and plug them in after I've got the ability to select levels. But that's future me's problem, so for now, I'm calling it a wrap. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you have any suggestions or feedback on the game, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to check out some of my other videos too, I make some pretty wacky stuff. That's everything for now, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers everyone.